My name is J.W. Spear. I'm with Milwaukee Friends Meeting.
And how do you spell first and last?
J as in the letter J, W as in the letter W. S-P-E-A-R is the last. I'm with Milwaukee Friends Meeting and Micah. What happened to Derek Williams? Among other aspects, generates a lack of trust in the police. No citizen, regardless of why he's in custody and under the control of a police officer, should have any reason to fear for his life. Derek Williams died in a police car with a police officer sitting in the front seat. And he died because he could not breathe. And if you look at the video, you can see him mouthing, "Help me, I cannot breathe," over and over.
What did you tell the chief?
I told the chief that we recognize that the city of Milwaukee and the police department of Milwaukee are command and control organizations. And part of that recognition is that this type of organization is extremely difficult to change from within. Typically, major significant changes in command and control organizations occur when the command is changed. And we think it's time for a change in command.
What was the chief's reaction to that?
The chief reacted to all of our statements at the end of the meeting.
What was his reaction to you saying that?
There was none. He reacted to all of our statements at the end of the meeting.
So you asked him to step down?
Yes. Yes, I believe we all did.
What was his response specifically to that demand?
We will give that after our statements are finished.
Yes.
I'll be happy to take questions.
Okay.
Are you next?
My name is Reverend Steve, S-T-E-V-E, Jerby, J-E-R-B as in boy, I. I serve at All People's Church in Milwaukee. We came into this meeting tonight reiterating our commitment as community leaders, as religious leaders, to support the Milwaukee Police Department when they do good. We know that there are great officers out there putting their lives on the line for our city, and we commend the good work that is happening. We pledge to continue to work with the police department. We also came in tonight with very clear and specific demands. Our first demand is that we stand in support of the remarks made by the NAACP in their letter delivered earlier this week. That letter includes a request for a sweeping federal investigation about the civil rights abuses in this city by the police. Secondly, we demand further information surrounding the Williams case, specifically when Chief Flynn first viewed the dash cam video and who was present with him, and we demand the release of the police radio communications for the night of Williams' death. We also demand the badges of the officers involved in the Williams' death, particularly Officers Jeffrey Klein and Gregory Kuspa, who have already been named in the so-called body cavity search, a term that we know is code for sexual assault. And finally, we informed Chief Flynn that we expect his removal from the position as Chief of Police, either by resignation or by termination, and that we tonight commit ourselves to organizing our communities, our congregations, and our organizations to bring about that change.
Have you talked to the mayor about this? Have you asked for his comment on that?
We'll be happy to respond to that after Reverend Briscoe.
Oh, sorry, we just didn't know the order of
Sure.
Yes. Reverend Briscoe, president of Micah.
What's your first and last name? Spell both, please.
First name is Willie, W-I-L-L-I-E, Briscoe, B-R-I-S-C-O. And despite what happened here tonight, I want to commend the police department because something they heard tonight, some of the things were not easy to take. So I want to commend the chief and his staff for being willing to come and listen to what we were brought them from the public meeting that we had last Thursday at the Black Firefighters Union. It was not easy to hear, but we have the sympathies and we have the directions of the public. They have spoken. They are outraged at what happened. There's no one that saw that tape that realizes that that person couldn't have been helped. We have politicians that are talking about legislation and new changes in training. That training was in place years ago, 20, 30 years ago. Ernest Lacey, you cannot allow a person in your custody to beg and plead for help and not render that help. You cannot put someone in your custody and not be responsible for their health. That was atrocious. Anybody that saw that tape a year ago, anybody that saw that tape a week ago, know that that was depraved indifference. I have vowed that I would work with the police department, that I would help them. And we was talking after the Darius Simmons case. We had a meeting at Rufus King High School that turned into a fiasco. We had a so-called meeting at Metropolitan Baptist Church that no one wanted to stay around to attend. And now this is what happened as a result of that. We, as a community, we deserve and we demand good police work. We demand a competent, well-trained police department. Nothing short of that. And we will work with the police department to do that. But this was not competency, this was not well-trained, nor was this trustworthy. This was a violation of civil rights and a violation of a human rights that caused a human death. Now, where we move from this, what the mayor does, we do demand to have a meeting with the mayor. And we want to have a meeting with the Common Council, and we also want to have a meeting with the county exec, because the police department are not the only ones in this chain. This goes uphill and this goes bilateral, and everyone that's in government, that's in authority in this county, needs to answer to what happened.
Is there a crisis of confidence for the Milwaukee Police Department?
There are great police officers out there. There were some great commanders in this meeting in here. We don't paint the police department with one broad brush, but there is something that is terribly wrong when you have body cavity searches, when you have this depraved indifference and something that's going through our community, when you have so many citizens' complaints. There's something going wrong, and we want that answered.
I'll ask you, sir. You read off your list of demands of the chief. How did the chief receive those demands and the call for him to resign?
The chief responded to the great success that he records with the decline in homicides in the city. And there's no denying that homicides have gone down in Milwaukee. We were also reminded of the good work that happens in community relations. However, Chief Flynn had no response to the specifics around the Williams case. He completely avoided that conversation, had no interest in engaging in that, particularly around the officers that were involved for that night or further information. And he was indignant about his response, saying he will not resign. But we commit ourselves to the justice that we hear in the streets, in the communities where we live and we serve.
You were not satisfied with what the chief said.
We also gave the chief an invitation to take some time to hear all that we said, because there were hard truths that were spoken. And we will give him the time that he needs to make a proper response. And we said that we do not want just a reaction, but we expect action.
Do you expect him to resign immediately?
Well, he made it clear tonight that he is not resigning immediately.
Well, did he say the words, "I will not resign"?
He said, if you think you can do that, that's fine, but you cannot string me up.
Strange to you that the public is not invited to this at all?
That has been practice of the police department in several of their meetings, that when the public gathers, there is fear and scheduling errors that lead to a lack of genuine conversation. And we believe that as organizers and as religious leaders, that we have the opportunity to generate positive conversations, to bring healing to a city that is wounded so deeply. And so we remain committed to stay at the table with the conversations that need to happen, while we do not back down on our demands.
Did the chief leave the meeting early at all, leaving you guys there for another 10 minutes or anything like that? Did he leave in a huff or what?
No, the chief and all of his staff, inspectors and captains, remained as we closed the meeting in prayer. And then after the prayer, as was set on the agenda, the meeting was adjourned.
And when might these other meetings be held, the ones with the mayor and the common council and county exec?
We await their calls to us.
Haven't heard anything yet.
Thank you.
But you've already reached out to the mayor and the mayor.
This is our official request tonight, is that we want to meet with all the government officials about this incident. because it is not a matter of legislation changing, it's not a matter of training, it's a matter of accountability. And the police department are not the only ones that we want answers from.
Thank you very much. Thank you.